So the prompt I'm doing is Interrogate the Truth, which is about how the school environment should be a place where historical narratives should be challenged and investigated, and how they can be changed once doing so. So for my visual personality, I want to start the whole video with two-dimensional graphics, much like this house and these trees here. I wanted to keep them flat and monochromatic. I just like that there's no additional details in the trees and the house. It's all just basic shapes like rectangles, circles, triangles, but they're all layered on top of one another, and the differences in the shades and hues of almost the same color just builds these different layers and makes the two-dimensional graphics seem three-dimensional, which I really want to keep throughout my entire video. And then I want to transition from those to 3D graphics, much like this one. Again, keeping it very simple, the walls, the floors, they're all the same color. The majority of everything is basic shapes, but having the different levels like this floor, the middle floor, and the bottom floor is visually interesting. The stickman being two-dimensional but being on the 3D axis and combined with the three-dimensional models is very interesting. I could use that to draw emphasis to certain parts of the audio that I think could help. For my visual message, I really want to transition and morph the two-dimensional into the three-dimensional to convey better with the idea that historical narratives can change when brought about in new light. So for morphing the two-dimensional graphics, I was looking at these. I really like how nothing enters the screen, nothing exits, all the graphics melts, flip, turn into one another, while all still being connected, almost like a loop, which I wanted to keep with my two-dimensional graphics. And then when I switched to the isometric and three-dimensional ones, I wanted to have them transform like these bumpers here. There's a lot of movement in the way that they move off screen, make your eye move off screen, and I wouldn't necessarily keep that, but it's just the idea of the simple shapes elongating, forming, some of them seeming solid and then becoming liquid to turn back into solid. That could be really useful and interesting. For my visual goals, I wanted to keep this optical illusion effect up throughout. So not necessarily the top row of cakes in this image, because of the different, there's a darker side here, and it looks like they have an opacity layer on this side to really help sell the three-dimensional effect. But I want them to look more like the cakes on the bottom. These look three-dimensional, but they still have more of the flat area. There are no harsh lines. They don't have different areas. This side is darker or has an opacity layer to make it look lighter than the other side. And I think that's really visually interesting. It really has an optical illusion. And for when I switch to the isometric graphics, these are the types of optical illusions I want to aim for. The way that everything circles in on itself, it doesn't really seem to end. I think this would, again, tie into the visual messaging on how historical narratives change and morph into each other, and how you can just constantly look at them in different perspectives and different lights. And then also for my visual goals, the main idea is that I want all of the motion to bleed and warp one into the next. And I think a great example of this is this video. Just the way that all of the motion is connected, especially with how they change perspective while still using the same graphic, or using one graphic to bring motion into the next and just completely change the scene, even though all they're changing is one graphic. I think that was really interesting, could be used a lot, especially with the isometric parts, with zooming out and changing how certain graphics look.